Okay, so picture this. You're like wading through mud, every step is a struggle, and the finish line feels like miles and miles away.
Yeah.
We've all been there, right?
Oh, absolutely.
But then
Yeah.
amidst all that heaviness, you spot a tiny spark.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just a small victory or a little piece of good news you weren't expecting or just a totally fresh way of looking at things.
Yeah.
And my friend, is the power of hope. And that is exactly what we are unpacking in today's deep dive.
I love that.
We've got this incredible source that uses really vivid imagery and some great storytelling to explore how hope, the real deal, not just like wishful thinking, how that impacts our brains, our actions, and even the world around us.
Yeah, what I find so fascinating is how this source really captures hope visually. They don't present it as some abstract idea. They describe it as this almost tangible force that emerges in the toughest of times, like a whisper,
Oh, I like that.
urging you forward when you least expect it.
I love that because it makes you realize that hope isn't about, burying your head in the sand and pretending like everything's peachy.
Right.
It's about acknowledging the muck and the mud, the very real challenges,
Absolutely.
and still somehow finding that little glimmer of possibility.
Yeah, and that's where resilience comes in.
Okay.
You see, hope allows us to shift our focus. Instead of fixating on the giant wall in front of you, hope helps you spot a tiny crack, a potential way through. It's that mental shift that creates an opening for solutions to emerge.
Okay, so hope helps us see things differently, but it doesn't stop there, right?
Oh, no, it doesn't stop there.
This source also makes it clear that hope is not a spectator sport.
Right.
It's not just wishing on a star. It's about, getting yourself in gear to chase after it.
Absolutely. They use a brilliant analogy in the source.
Yeah.
Talk about a marathon runner. Your body is just screaming for you to stop. Exhaustion is setting in.
Totally.
But then you see that finish line in the distance.
Yeah.
And suddenly you get this burst of energy.
It's that I can do this feeling.
Exactly. And that's hope in action. It's that unwavering belief that reaching the finish line, whatever that may be for you, is possible. But it doesn't stop at belief. It fuels the willpower to keep putting one foot in front of the other, even when it's incredibly difficult.
So it's this incredible cycle we face, a challenge, hope kicks in, and suddenly we find the energy to take action. And then those very actions, those small victories, fuel even more hope.
Absolutely.
But I'm curious, this source talks about the hope-brain connection.
Mhm.
And I have to admit, that sounds a bit, fluffy to me.
That's a common misconception.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. Hope isn't just some whimsical feeling.
Yeah.
It has a real measurable impact on our brains.
Really? Like, how does that even work?
Well, remember how we talked about hope shifting our perspective?
Yeah.
That shift triggers actual changes in our brain chemistry. When we're hopeful, our brains release hormones like dopamine and oxytocin.
Okay.
Dopamine is all about reward and motivation, while oxytocin is linked to feelings of connection and trust.
So it's like a chemical cocktail for feeling good and tackling challenges head on.
You could say that.
I like it.
These hormones help reduce stress, allowing us to think more clearly. It's like that feeling of pressure just lifting off your shoulders, and suddenly you can see the problem from a fresh angle and approach it with a calmer, more focused mind.
That's amazing. So it's like hope primes us for success, not just emotionally, but biologically.
Yeah.
That's wild. But if hope is this internal superpower, does it stop with us?
That's where it gets even more interesting.
Okay.
This source makes this really compelling point about how the hope we cultivate within ourselves can actually ripple outwards, influencing not just our own lives, but the world around us.
Yeah, I can see that. Like you were just talking about dopamine and oxytocin.
Yeah.
Those feel-good hormones,
Right.
those don't just make us feel better in isolation. They actually make us more open to connecting with others, to collaborating, to building something bigger than ourselves.
Right. Precisely. And that's where hope's real magic happens. Think about it. Throughout history, so many of humanity's greatest achievements, from groundbreaking scientific discoveries to these powerful social movements, they were fueled by this shared sense of hope.
That's so true. This source even touches upon how hope has been this driving force for positive change throughout history. Like, where would we be without the hope that fueled the civil rights movement?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Imagine someone like Martin Luther King Jr.
Yeah.
standing up against incredible injustice and oppression,
Right.
yet holding on to this unwavering belief in a better future.
Wow.
That hope, that vision he shared, It ignited a movement that changed the course of history.
It gives me chills just thinking about it.
Yeah.
But it's not just these like monumental historical events, right?
Right.
This source also talks about hope's impact on a more personal level, especially in the context of education.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's this really moving scene in the source where a teacher embodies hope for a struggling student. It's not just about pushing for good grades. It's about igniting a belief in that student's potential, showing them that they are capable of amazing things.
It's like planting a seed,
Yes.
nurturing that belief in themselves so they can grow and thrive.
Exactly. And that's a perfect example of what we call a growth mindset. It's the belief that our abilities aren't fixed. We can always learn, evolve, and become more than we are today. And hope, my friend, is the fuel that powers that growth.
It's like hope helps us rewrite the narrative, you know,
Yeah.
not just for ourselves, but for those around us. It's
Yeah.
pretty powerful stuff.
It really is.
So,
And speaking of powerful narratives, this source ends with this really striking image.
okay.
They describe someone standing on a mountaintop,
Yeah.
looking out at this vast and uncertain,
Right.
yet ultimately promising horizon.
Okay, I can see it. You've conquered the climb, you're breathing in the fresh air,
Right.
but the journey's not over.
Exactly.
There's a whole world out there still waiting to be explored.
Exactly. And that's the essence of hope, isn't it? It's that unwavering belief that no matter how challenging the climb, no matter how uncertain the path ahead, there's always something incredible waiting for us at the top, or maybe just around the bend. It gives us the strength to keep putting one foot in front of the other.
Yeah, it reminds me of that quote by Nelson Mandela. Hope is being able to see that there is light despite all of the darkness. And you know what's really resonating with me from this deep dive is that hope isn't some like passive wish.
Right.
It's an active choice that we make.
You hit the nail on the head. Hope is a muscle we have to exercise. You know, it's about making a conscious decision to focus on possibilities, to nurture that belief in ourselves and in a brighter future, even when faced with setbacks or disappointments.
So if we want to cultivate more hope in our lives, where do we even begin? What can we like take away from all of this?
Well, this source suggests that hope is something we carry, something we can choose to share. So start by asking yourself, where will you choose to take your hope today? How can you be that spark of light for yourself and for others?
Wow, what a powerful question to end on. So to everyone listening, next time you're feeling bogged down, just remember that spark, that glimmer of hope. Choose to fan those flames, embrace the power of possibility, and just watch as it transforms not just your outlook, but the world around you.